we cannot let church planting fall down pegs of priority in our denomination. We've got to get a plan. If the plan's not owned at the local level, then the plan is only going to be a plan with no action.
One of the typical criticisms of events that just happen around our denomination is that we come together and we talk, but then it doesn't lead to an action step.
And is there any way where after receiving this tremendous legacy, basically in my time, am I just content to let the whole thing fall apart while we're running our lap, holding this baton?
We just took the critical first step at reversing the trend of decline in the CRC. We threw the first punch at decline within the Christian Reformed denomination. So the Multiply Conference just happened, and this episode is full of laughter and reflection because we talk about the important role that Scott Vander Ploeg has been dubbed in this whole trend reversal. We talk about how education and academia really reduces and minimizes risk-taking. We talk about the plans and the results coming out of this conference, and more intriguingly, we talk about the next secret steps that Sunlight is taking in church planting. You don't want to miss this episode of the Disciple Standard podcast. Welcome back to the Disciple Standard podcast. I'm your anchorman, Aaron, and I'm glad to be back with you guys. We've got the post-conference, and not just the conference, just a lot of thoughts and understanding and philosophy of the denomination as a whole, and us moving forward together, wanting to see multiplied disciples, leaders, and churches. And to have that discussion, we've got the wise one, Zach Olson himself. Thanks for making it to the podcast.
My pleasure, as always.
And we've got Mr. Multiply, Pastor Scott Vander Ploeg. Glad to have you here as well. Let's talk conference. What was the most exciting thing, energizing takeaway from the conference, or maybe frustrating thing? Either one you could take. Which one? The frustrating one is more spicy, but exciting is, hopeful. Whichever one you go and take.
Yeah, I'll just say, it was really exciting to see people from so many different places coming, and they came, and I think, Scott, you said this a couple times, that just the nature of the conference, like they had to pay their way, so their presence there really showed they want to see discipleship and growth and leaders developed and churches planted. So that was exciting just to be here.
Yeah. Was the atmosphere good? Did you, food good, fun level,
I think
communication
so.
high?
The food trucks, that was such a brilliant idea. Like,
Good.
I just loved having the opportunity to choose between 4 different things.
And then it's free. Like, it's not going to cost you $30 for an entree.
That's
You
right.
know what I'm saying? It's like, this is my magic ticket that I could go to this food truck.
Yeah.
Whatever reason, food trucks are always just more pricey than they should
I heard
be.
that you took more than one ticket per lunch.
I know a couple people did.
I did. I took it more. I took more than one ticket. That burrito was tiny. I wanted.
You looked at me right there like, do I have to confess?
That burrito was so good, but it was tiny.
So
it was tiny.
50% more of it.
That was when I was thinking energizing or exciting. To me, I went to the food trucks immediately. All the stuff was good. Like the people were probably second. What you said from everywhere, but. Brother, the food trucks were amazing, dude.
Just logistically speaking, when you think about all the detail and all of whatever happened, I was super proud of our team.
Good team.
I think, we did it. And I know there's people who work like really long hours.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just grateful that we were willing to. In a sense, we just wanted to serve people in our denomination, and I think we went above and beyond to do our best, and I was glad that we had a good presentation. I think things were thought through. There was plenty of signage, and the balloon arches, and the logo, and the shirts, and the registration, and I think by the time and there was a lot of last-minute details, we did it fairly quickly. If you think about it, we haven't been planning this for a year. We've been planning it for just a few months.
Yeah.
And I'm really proud of our team.
Yeah, I think shout out to the sponsors. So Outreach really handled the signs. Melissa handled the food trucks. There are a lot of people. I do want to highlight Saran, though. I wanted Saran on this podcast, but apparently he's got to do Christmas or whatever. So his energy for the conference was sky high, and especially when he was trying to like sing the Psalms, because this is a foreign concept for all of us, as you say repeatedly. Like we've kind of lost touch with that, singing the Psalms in church, especially, and to like sing these Psalms that like to a new cadence that he's not used to. He's not. I mean, like that's
Yeah, it was great.
And to bring the band along, and then to have it like executed the professionalism that he had it at, it was great. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Harry on the keys. I mean, that was.
And part of it was, there are Psalms that we know because we've been working at this, but we decided to do the Psalms of Ascent, which we didn't know except for Psalm 133.
Yeah, so
that was the only one we knew.
It's brand new, and so he only had a couple of weeks to handle those, which was great. So yeah, I thought all the detail, all the planning, even small details like the frisbee golf and the putt-putt. Those are fun.
Did you see people?
Yeah,
doing the
man.
frisbee golf?
Yeah, bro. They were just going out. They were not good. They were bad, but
It was windy.
yeah. Okay. So it was good. I thought it was good atmosphere, and then it spurred for good conversation, good talking, hopefully good relationships made.
So here's one thing that stood out to me, which was it was very difficult to get people to come back for any session because people were really enjoying themselves. And I saw that not as a difficulty per se, but as something fantastic.
Yeah.
Like people were excited to see each other. I think I sensed about this conference that there was an overall sense of hope or encouragement or like, I don't know, like, okay, here we go. And I think, the other connecting point that sometimes happens in our denomination is Synod. Synod is just like a blistering, business meeting, and it's often not that inspiring. So I don't think there's too many events where people get together from such a wide range of places where you have the opportunity to really have relationships with each other and have a space that's inspiring or hopeful or collaborative or, we're conspiring together or whatever. And so I thought that was unique.
I was speaking with other people from around the denomination, and I didn't understand that the feel for typical meetings in the CRC was more like very business structured. Like church meetings are business meetings, basically. That's the reaction I got. And a lot of people were talking about like the fun or laughter. Jerry was commenting on the laughter part about how we start off with the comedian, or there's just like a genuine sense of hopefully good camaraderie, like a authentic camaraderie here. So that was a weird takeaway that I took from that. I have no idea how other churches run their meetings or conferences. We just kind of invented ours out of the personality that we have. So what do you think about it? I mean,
I think it might be our personality.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because I think about like even Classis Southeast. I've been a part of a couple classes, and I love classes meetings to see people and catch up and all that. But I think Classis Southeast, we expect that we're going to have fun together. We enjoy each other's company.
Yeah.
And I think that really showed here at the conference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was your most energizing moment, PS, from the conference?
I guess if I was to, not moment, but just sort of big takeaway. So now the conference is over, so I can step back and just think, all right, how'd this go? Or what was this about? The idea for this conference arose out of what happened at our synod, because our classis, and I ended up being a chief spokesman for it, really thought that we cannot let church planting fall down pegs of priority in our denomination. And the fact that there were no more funds for church plants, we thought, okay, we've got to get a plan. That was the basic, so that's what we rallied for at Synod. There was a unanimous vote. It was obvious that there was a lot of momentum. And if I was to compare what happened in Synod 2023, which was about church renewal, and then what happened at Synod 2025, which was about church planting, which, by the way, I think are like two sides of the same coin.
Yeah.
They were both sort of the individual issues of those synods, but I think they're two sides of the exact same coin. In 2023, there was some, like debate on the floor of Synod before the motion passed that we were going to get a plan for renewal together as a denomination. In Synod 2025, there was no debate. Everyone was just like together. It was almost more like an uprising.
Yeah.
But what I discerned from all that, and this was the idea and genesis of the conference, is even though we're called upon Synod and the Office of the General Secretary to create a plan for the next decade for church planting, that the energy or even the ideas and the plan itself has to come with a grassroots component to it. It's not like we can, from Synod, ask the General Secretary to give us a plan, and then if a plan drops out of the sky, now something's happening. Mm-hmm. So I discerned this has to be grassroots, and that's, actually after Synod, we went on a vacation, our family went on vacation, and I remember sitting on the beach thinking about, okay, this has to be grassroots. All right, if it's grassroots, it's got to arise from somewhere. Uh-oh. Maybe we're the somewhere.
Who stood up?
Yeah. So
it's your idea.
With that in mind, I just thought to myself, okay, let's have this conference. I'm going to try to invite people from every corner of our denomination. I'd like to get someone from every classis here. And I think now my big takeaway, having done this event, is that even more than I thought before, I now think, which is this really has to arise out of the grassroots in every location. So, Tim Sheridan is going to, along with Zach King and the General Secretary's office, and he's pulled together some working groups to help put this plan together, and the plan is great. But I think we're really going to have to get the buy-in at the classis level. That's where in individual churches we'll be raising up disciples, we'll be developing leaders, and then the classis themselves, out of the overflow of those leaders, are going to have to come up with a plan to plant churches. And so I think we're probably, as a denomination, in the middle of some process where we're moving from a more centralized structure to a more decentralized structure. And I personally think that's great. I think that's good. It's necessary. The centralized structure is going to help be connectors and collaborators between all the various hubs of this network. But I think all the local classes are probably the place where it's going to happen. Yeah. And anyway, those are my big thoughts. And so I love the fact that we got so many people who are enthusiastic, who feel like, okay, I'm going to be an ambassador back to my own local area, and then hopefully there's like a cross-pollination and a collective effort where we're all working together. And anyway, those are my thoughts.
Yeah, we'll get to it a little later in the podcast, but Paul Vander has some thoughts exactly on that. I guess you guys are on the same page about a lot of this has to come up through the classis levels. The leadership development's got to be part of the structure. But I want to go back to what you said about there has to be a component of grassroots. Mm-hmm. And decentralizing. Some might see this threatening. We don't want this to be threatening. It's not that at all. We see a mission forward. We got to plow through for the mission. That is the highest priority. I want to ask the question, why does it have to be grassroots? Why do you think it has to be grassroots? You come to this realization?
Just ownership. If the plan's not owned at the local level, then the plan is only going to be a plan with no action. The action's got to be taken at the local level, and I think every different locale has a different set of circumstances, their own, local culture, and no one from, it's like this. No one from, let's say, the Midwest is going to be able to tell us in South Florida what is the best way to, make disciples, raise up leaders, and, plant churches. Now, there are some principles that we could all share. So I'm not saying But
nothing.
the plan for what's going to happen here in Florida has to come from the leaders in Florida. They're not going to come from Michigan or some other place.
And vice versa.
So it's not like we here in Florida can plan for what the strategy could be in the city of Seattle.
Yeah.
How would we do that?
Yeah.
So that's why it's got to be grassroots, is because every locale knows the situation on the ground. They know what will work and what won't work. They, and now part of it, and I don't want to miss this, I think actually like a great decentralized structure has a lot of communication between all the various different hubs or spokes or places where the network is, because we're sharing ideas, and it's almost like, oh man, what they're doing in Boston, that could really work here. And then they'll say, but it has to be like this instead of that. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
But I think if every little locale keeps their head down and doesn't raise their eyes to see the other possibilities, that's also negative. But yeah, these are all the reasons I think we need a collective grassroots effort.
Yeah, I like how you said it was ownership. What would it take for the centralized structure to obtain the levels of ownership that would need a grassroots movement would need the centralized structure for ownership into a joint movement of this whole denomination? Because we all need each other, like Leslie was saying.
Right.
We all need each other. This is one serving the other. It's like not against each other. But so, what do you guys think what it would take for the ownership at the denominational level?
I think like what Scott was saying, to be a connector would be an important piece. So if they could help to convene opportunities for classes to share with each other. But I think also our denominational offices are positioned well to help facilitate classes putting together a vision and understanding this is what we want to do in our context. It's just not really practical for Southeast U.S. to go to the Pacific Northwest or up to Boston to help facilitate, but the denomination could.
Yeah.
And then that way you've got both the grassroots ownership because they're coming up with the plan, but then you have a central structure who, even think about it. Like if they're the ones who are helping us facilitate how we're going to do this, they've got a frontline view to what each classis is doing, and that helps with the communication.
Yeah, we had, actually Scott had some conversation, I guess, with some Iowa boys, and they were talking about how they wanted to maybe have something like this in Iowa. And we were thinking through like how that would work. Obviously, if you guys are listening, we want to help you in any way possible. Scott was willing to fly out himself, myself too. I'm sure any one of us were willing to go there. Actually, Saran was like, we're going to put a group together. We're going to roll out to Iowa. Yeehaw, or whatever they say in Iowa.
Yeehaw.
We're gonna start some kind of conference there. It's gonna be great. However, like what does that look like here? How do we support other classes for them to buy in with their own local level of ownership? These are all questions that we still need to come up with, especially a centralized or maybe, I don't know, some kind of forum or group or.
Yeah, the biggest challenge now I think is communication.
Yeah, communication.
And I heard this from a lot of people from the conference, leaving the conference, like, okay, we're here, we just heard this, but how are we going to spread these ideas and this enthusiasm to other people?
Yeah.
How are we going to do that? And I think now our biggest challenge from here is figuring out communication.
We got some ideas. I just asked Ethan to reserve MDLC.org, and so we'll see what we could come up here.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we'll get there. I'm not sure. Just like the conference, we were it was evolving as we were talking about this whole thing. All right. So I'd like to get to some of the reactions. What were you guys'? Do you guys have a pulse on anything surprising that you've heard about? What's the reactions to the conference? Positive, negative? We've got thick skin. We could handle some negative critique. No big deal. Or was it positive?
I think it was mostly positive. I know just personally one thing that I was hoping was going to come out of this conference would be a little bit more like action steps that we would all take. And maybe that's not what this was designed to do, but I think one of the typical criticisms of events just happen around our denomination is that we come together and we talk, but then it doesn't lead to an action step. And so I think in the follow-up communication, I would love to see some of that.
Well, I think there's an action step. It's not a lot of action steps, but this is the action step the way I see it, which is that we floated the idea that in the next decade we're going to raise up 2,000 leaders, but we asked every classis to respond to that and say, here's what we're going to do. Here's our contribution. Then we floated this idea we're going to plant 1,000 churches, and we've asked every class to say, here's our part in that. This is how many we aspire to in the next decade. So I think that's the assignment. We probably, as you mentioned, we need to be really clear in the follow-up.
Here's the action step.
But the action step is
Decide
every
on a number.
classes has to get themselves together and they've got to answer these questions and start getting a plan together.
So Zach is the king of action steps. I didn't know if you knew this.
Oh, yeah.
He ran a breakout, and I was part of it. And I was out of it all week, so I was like, Zach, I'm just gonna follow your lead, and he was like, I got it, and I'm gonna kick it over to you whenever needed. So he led through like a breakout on sunlight culture. You could ask Zach more if you want to elaborate on it. However, his action step at the end I thought was awesome. He showed the sunlight structure funnel that we've got. So basically the funnel is that our church school combinations feed up people through our discipleship program, top of funnel, and then it gets funneled down deeper into our leadership program, which is 222 LS, which gets down to our deepest level, which is church planning initiative. Mm-hmm. And this funnel takes about however long it takes, years, for someone to course through all that and to produce another to produce another church school. And then he handed out like a worksheet where it was blank on those three levels: discipleship, leadership, church planting. And he said, these are our chosen plans or courses of action: 222 disciple, 222 leadership, church planting initiative. Those are ours. What's yours? And so fill that in, and this would help you. I was like, yeah, Zach. Yeah, you guys need to fill this in. You guys, like, we need to have like at least an understanding of how we're going to plant a church. It takes discipleship into leadership, into churches, into a church, and then what church or what group or either youth group or whatever come. I thought that was a level of brilliance that I was like, yeah, this is real practical brilliance right here, guys. You guys should listen to this one. So I thought that was a really good action step.
Yeah, when I was designing that breakout, I was really trying to put myself in my shoes 10 years ago. So, I remember being a part of the Renewal Lab and hearing all the incredible things were happening at, I think was it Providence in Grand Rapids, and then Sunlight here. Yeah. Providence in Holland, that's right. And then Evergreen in Hudsonville. And I remember thinking, man, this is so great. If you have a staff, if you have the resources that I don't have. Like, it was so easy for me to say, I can't do this because I don't have what they have. And so when I was working through this breakout, I really was thinking through, like, how can I translate what we're doing here for a local leader or a solo pastor who doesn't have a staff to have a level 10 with, right?
Yeah. That's real good.
Yeah, and even to, like, okay, I remember being really energized by stuff in the Renewal Lab. My council was very supportive. They were very supportive, but they weren't connected to the vision in the same way I was. So even like, how do I, as a solo leader, I can't just make my council like my level 10 meeting. That would have been cool. So how do I do that? And so the whole idea was to think, man, if you're a solo pastor who it's going to take your council a while to get on board and to understand what's happening, that funnel is a way for you to start like a little subculture in your church of multiplication. So you're starting to make disciples that you're going to raise up to be leaders who are going to raise up other leaders and other disciples. And then you're creating your own little like school church combo-ish kind of thing, right?
Yeah, or product, right? Like you want a group or you want a group of people or whatever,
That's right.
like some small
That's
group.
right. And so this is my conviction, and sorry if this is a direction we're not going, stop me anytime, but I think if I ever went back into like a traditional church where I was a solo pastor with a council, I would focus on doing three things. I'd focus on making sure that I'm preaching gospel-centered sermons. I'd focus on making sure that people are visited and cared for. Those are the two things that councils really want. If you can do those things, your council loves you. And then I would focus on creating this subculture funnel. Because eventually what's going to happen, I think, is that your funnel will start producing leaders who are going to be on your council. And then your council is going to want more than just good sermons and care. They're going to want multiplication.
Yeah, absolutely.
It takes a long time, but I think that's the path.
That's what Scott did here.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you could talk a little bit about that. The 222 disciple was not 222 disciple at the beginning.
Okay. Well, the funny thing about it is that I don't think I had a clear plan or philosophy or thought, yet I was sort of stumbling toward doing these very things. I'm discipling people. I'm starting to pour into them to raise people up as leaders. And then we're starting to think about how to multiply. But it wasn't thought out.
Right.
It was just kind of accidentally happening. But as it accidentally happened, then I started wondering, okay, what's working? You know, what is happening here that's maybe like transferable principle? And I think MDLC is the distilled outcome of a lot of thinking and observation, trial and error. Try things, that worked, that didn't work. MDLC, which I think is simple enough. We're multiplying disciples, leaders, churches. And by the way, actually, if I was to say anything, I think having those 4 letters on the stage was one of the best things that we did for the whole conference.
Absolutely.
Because we could talk about a lot of things and there could have been a lot of presentations or whatever, but we're multiplying disciples, leaders, and churches. And I think actually like everyone sees a relationship between those now. It starts with multiplying disciples. From that, there are leaders who develop, and then on the far end, when those leaders develop, we might be able to plant churches. And if we plant churches, they should be discipling people. And I think people caught the idea of this virtuous cycle. So,
Sounds like a good renewal plan.
yes, I really think this is, and I think everyone here, it's interesting to me because, like I said, it's like this has sort of got distilled over the long course of time. I think it's built into the DNA here at Sunlight and at Multiply.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this for a long time. I mean, anyone can go on our website right now and see that we have this idea. And anyway, but I think that one of the things that happened at this conference, I think all people who came here have grabbed hold of that paradigm. And now it's interesting because Zach, he's saying, oh, okay, if I was to start, I would start with this paradigm. And what an advantage to start with
Bigly.
this paradigm.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Rather than stumble on it.
Yeah, I left that brick out. I'm like, yeah, guys, this is the wise one right here speaking. You guys need grab some a hold of
Yeah.
this. Yeah. So I'm glad for that. Some of the reactions that we were picking up was not just at the conference, but online as well. Zach, did you see this video? I don't know if you've heard about this video. Paul Vander, one of the people who was on the panel, friend of the pod, friend of the conference. He put out a video. He's a YouTuber. And we'll have the links down in the description below. He put out a YouTube video said, Scott Vander Ploeg is the most important person in the CRC you haven't heard of, or something close to that. Yeah. And I was just like, what a statement. First of all, let's get your reaction to that title.
My basic reaction is to bristle. You know, I'm not like, on the one hand, I accept a lot of leadership role, but I'm not the natural put myself out there as
You didn't pay him? You didn't get him to say it? You didn't.
My first reaction was to call him and be like, why would you do that to me?
That's good.
For better, for worse, I see that God's done something amazing here, and that, I've been busy working at it. But if I look back, I would just honestly say, like, it wasn't my brilliance or my thinking or my hard work. It's just like God's done the whole thing, and I just happen to be like here to watch it, kind of.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean I didn't work at it or anything, but I just, at the end of the day, I've had a front row seat to watch God work, and it's amazing. So over the course of time, I've recognized that I've had to grow as a leader in the midst of all that, and I could just concentrate on what we're doing here, but God's put me in situations like with the church renewal labs at Calvin Seminary and other opportunities in our classes or otherwise that I just see, I'm playing some role of leadership, whether I want to be acknowledged or not. And I finally, I guess, in one way or another, step forward to put on this conference, and I want to see something awesome happen in our denomination. I feel like I mentioned this, I don't remember which day in the recap videos, but with a couple other people, I had this overall thought, like, I've been so blessed by the people who have gone before us. Mm-hmm. I received a legacy or a heritage, and I almost view it as like there was this relay race, and now it's my generation, and the baton's been passed to, I say mine, but our generation. And I feel like the baton's been passed to me, to us. And man, is there any way where after receiving this tremendous legacy, basically in my time, am I just content to let the whole thing fall apart while we're running our lap, holding this baton? Right. And I, there's all kinds of challenges, both external and internal. But everyone's always had external and internal challenges. Mm-hmm. We have a unique set of external and internal challenges, but I'm just not content to just say, well, too bad. Things are going to fall apart, and shrug our shoulders. Well, what could we have done?
Yeah.
I just think, all right, all of us who are in this generation, who find ourselves in leadership of the church, like, now is the time to, and it's not us, it's God. I've already tried to say that, but let's not just accept that the whole thing's going to fall apart while we're running our lap.
Right. And as someone, and I'm going to speak from someone who I think is the closest to you through all the years of ministry. I mean, I've seen it kind of develop. There is no way, there is 0% chance of any way would someone kind of perceive it that you tried to be the most important person, quote unquote, person in the CRC. I've seen like it was a problem that you had to solve. It was a mission that was ahead of you that you needed to accomplish, and that you brought people on board. And it's always a bell curve. And it was people who were resistant and they came on board, or people who were with you because of whatever track record at the local church level to the classis level. And now hopefully people are seeing it, and I think Paul at least has seen it, that, hey, yeah, this is not theory. This is the span of 20 plus years of ministry that has worked at different levels, and now we're trying to, you're really trying to serve and help as many people as possible. I think that's just the nature of who you are, and I've seen it personally. It's just no way someone could ever bring the charge to saying like, he's just trying to make himself more important or more relevant than any other. It's like, it's so disconnected. I don't understand it.
So I guess I just accept that Paul says that. Now I want to react to the content of it just a little bit, because I've been thinking about it since he did. Because Paul, if you watch this video, he sort of mentions like, all right, in the Christian Reformed Church,
we have clips.
We had I'll let you watch the.
Let's do the clips.
Okay.
Let's do the clips. Yeah.
Pause. I'll wait for you.
Yeah, got it. No, so I'm the anchor man. Still, I mean, I could say all that, but I still run the show here.
Ron, anchor man.
Let's bring up.
Quiet until I ask you your question.
Chill, Mr. Multiply. 1436, Jake. So this is a little bit of a cue up to this. Paul is talking a little bit about the history, and then he talks about what's happening here and who's the leader here, and talks about Scott. Towards the end, he mentions where the focus of the CRC is going, or has been going, and where it needs to go. And he mentions from the philosophers to now the practitioners. He doesn't use those words per se, but let's get right into it. Till 16 to 16.
Church plant growth is astoundingly determined on the number of Christian Reformed people and institutions in the region. And Snapper's thesis is true. Scott has not only defied that, Scott has in some ways inverted that, and with Christian schools, both fulfilled it and done something. And I don't want to just put this all on Scott, but he's the most visible element as the senior pastor and as the leader of that community, quite clearly the leader of that community, of those communities. And again, done what pretty much nobody else has. Now, I haven't been ever born in the Christian Reformed Church, and so forgive me if there are churches that have done it that I don't know about. But that's part of the thesis of this video, because the Christian Reformed Church has been paying all of its attention to the four horsemen of Calvin College that the elite and the leadership of the Christian Reformed Church have esteemed and given all of their attention. Now, I'm not going to take anything away from Waltersdorf, Plantinga, Mao, or Marsden. I'm fans of all four.
That's good. So he basically says the successful church plants in the CRC were only because it was around CRC communities, but Scott had defied the odds and inverted the expectation, and the CRC is so focused on the college professors and theologians and thinkers, and he will make the case in the rest of the video that it needs to focus on the practitioner, which is Scott. What's your reaction to that?
Well, a few things. One, he mentions David Snapper. I had David Snapper come on here, and there's no doubt that understanding what David Snapper's research got at helped me a ton. Like, I started thinking to myself, like, okay, what is true here? Why is that important? And even though it's, we don't fall within one of his hubs that he talks about that's needed, what can we do to, like, fake it till we make it? Or how can we create our own kind of hub or center without having it? So I owe a lot to David Snapper just in my own thinking. I think if I hadn't met David Snapper, who knows what our outcome would have been. Meeting him in 2010, very pivotal, I think, for our whole ministry here. Now, with regard to, first of all, when I hear from Paul, like, all right, here are the heavyweights: Al Plantinga, Nicholas Waltersdorf, Marsden, Richard Mao, and they were the important people, and now Scott. I'm like, what? Come on.
The four horsemen.
I don't know about that analysis, but I've thought a little bit about it since I watched this video yesterday. Here's what I think. First of all, at least my classmates in seminary know this. I was a straight A student in seminary. And the professors at Calvin Seminary, at least some of them, were working in such a way that I would go get my PhD and become an academic and a professor. Certainly, there were academics who saw me as the future. And I resisted that. For whatever reason, I just didn't feel that was my calling. I was always very, very good at academics. But I just didn't feel that was my direction. So I just say that as a way of saying, like, I really, even in choosing to go to Calvin Seminary, the thing that drew me was sort of height of intellectual life, maybe. I don't know. I was really drawn toward that kind of thing. But now in our ministry here in Port St. Lucie, I have come to think that, it's that our denomination is probably over-influenced by academia in this way, that in academia, you don't want to write a okay paper and get a D. You want to write the best paper and get an A. And so when it comes to doing things even, we need to have everything carefully thought out so that when we do it really, really well and succeed first try. And I think that actually is the unintended consequence of our academic model, is that we teach people that if you're going to set out to do anything, then set out to get an A on your first try. Okay? But the process of ministry doesn't work that way. And actually, what you need to do is, all right, there are these opportunities in front of us. We do not need to sit back and think about these opportunities and mull over them and create committees to study them and work over every angle until we get a concept in our mind that we know that when we roll out our first thing, we're going to hit a home run the first time and get an A. What we need to do is look at the opportunity and then immediately try something. And realize that, first of all, and this is why I believe the gospel is so important too, and a gospel identity is so important, because I don't know very much. I don't know what I'm doing. It's fine, but God set this opportunity in front of me. And if I put in an effort and get an F or a D this first time, that doesn't mean that God's kicking me out of the house. I'm no longer part of his kingdom. No, I'm a prince, a son of the Most High God who's been justified. I'm part of his kingdom. And so I'm willing to try something and it doesn't work out very well. Okay, now what happens is when it doesn't work out well, you think about, okay, what kind of worked, what didn't work, and then you try again. And then you get some more feedback, and then you try again. And then you get some more feedback, and you try again. So I guess even in my previous description that, okay, MDLC, I didn't have it at the beginning. I have it after 22 years of experimentation. The way you finally start figuring out what works, and I'm not meaning this as sort of a pragmatist, but like anybody who's ever tried to start or innovate anything had to follow this process. You sort of make a plan, you do it, you check in on that plan, and then you make adjustments, you go back, and you keep on working that until finally you start achieving some success. And I think actually one of the things that if I think about it, I'm like, okay, if there's been a shift from the academians, which I appreciate, to a guy like Scott, then I think actually what I would put out there is the process. The academic process is not the right process for disciple making, leadership development, and church planting. The best thing I can do to help a leader is like, hey, let's go visit this person in the hospital, and they just like stumble. Then you just talk about it with them. Like, how do you think that went? Not very well. Why?
Yeah.
Like, or whatever we're trying to work on. The best way is just get in there, experiment, fail, realize that this isn't I'm going to say something about you personally. Actually, God's already said something about you personally through the gospel. So it doesn't have to shatter your identity that you're turned in D work.
Right.
Just the goal is not to stay at the D work. The goal is to go, oh, okay, now I learned something, and finally start getting these successes. And so I don't know, I think maybe there's an academic process, and that academic process has overshadowed our natural disciple-making, leadership development, church planting mentality, and maybe there does need to be a shift. And if I represent that, great.
Yeah. Zach, you got any reactions to Scott saying?
I think I do, but they feel underbaked right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think...
I'll let you sit on it then.
Yeah. Yeah, let me sit on it.
Okay. I think for myself, I just think about the book Ready, Fire, Aim, or Plan, Do, Check, and Adjust. Another saying like we're understanding here. It's you just try something, and it's all right if it doesn't work out as best as it can initially. I've tried many things, and no problem. And you'll take the lessons from it, and you adjust from there. So I get that.
Well, one of the problems that people might have coming to this conference is they see, and I don't believe this is a finished product, but they see something more like a finished product, and they're like, oh man, that could be so far different from where I'm at. This is what Zach was saying.
Yeah.
And the truth of the matter is, no, there's been way more failures along the way than successes. So if you just show up here and see some successes, you'll be like, oh man.
Absolutely.
But you got the wrong message then. So even when it comes to disciple making, I was no expert in making disciples at the beginning. But I went out and tried to do it. And all the time people come to me and are like, oh man, but I haven't been able to really get my disciples to make disciples yet. I'm like, well, then keep trying. Every time you disciple someone new, you're going to get a little bit better. I was in the same boat. I discipled people for years. I didn't get anyone to multiply a single person.
Yeah.
But then I started getting better at it as I kept on trying, that kind of thing. So that's my basic message is like, whatever happens, don't give up. You just got one step closer to being able to do it. And you just have to recognize like, okay, forget this academic model. You tried something, you got a D. Oh man, I'm not good at that. I'm going to avoid it. No. You tried it, so you're one step closer than everyone else who hasn't tried it yet.
Right. I wonder why pastors, maybe CRC pastors, are so risk averse or something. I don't know.
That's what's still cooking. Because I think like, my first church that I served was in Southwest Ontario, and there were a number of people who were there who had construction businesses or they're farmers. And I know for a fact that when a problem would come up in their business, they would do exactly that. Okay, combine breaks. Let's try to figure it out. We'll try something. If it doesn't work, I'm going to try another thing. And just over and over. And they're not thinking about the failures, the times it didn't work. They're just working toward it getting to work. And I think you could make a connection between any classes and any kind of profession where we do this. But there's something unique about the council room in the Christian Reformed Church where like all that risk or like ability to take risk or really to plan, do, fail, and then check, it just like screeches to a halt.
Yeah.
And so that's why it's taken me longer. I don't know how to say it correctly, but like I understand the academic side. Like you're saying, a pastor comes, we're trained to get it right the first time. And I could imagine that, as a council member, like you're like, yeah, pastor, go ahead and give that a shot. And then if it doesn't work, then the council has this, okay, here's a leader who's now licking his wounds, and here's a congregation who's asking me, hey, why did you guys support that? And so I'm just trying to think,
Bad boy.
What's the culture piece that suppresses that ability to plan, do, evaluate, and then adjust?
Yeah. And maybe it's different in every church, and, maybe it's contextual. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. So I don't know, and probably this didn't come out enough in our conference at all, but I do think that centering everything on the gospel starts freeing things up.
Yeah. Back to what you said.
It makes you realize that, man, I'm a miserable sinner. Of course I don't know anything. It kind of humbles you, like, what makes me think I would ever be able to do anything? But then at the same time, it's like you're a child of God. You've been chosen by Jesus before the foundation of the world. He has a calling and he's empowered you to do it, and he's sending you to serve. So you have these dual things playing at the same time. And I don't know. I think of like all the various things that we've done here that were like a total flop and didn't work out. And yet one of the things I'd say about our church is because of the gospel, we're pretty gracious to each other. Nobody's like raking anybody over coals or saying, hey, what made you think you should step out and try that? And
who do you think you are?
Who do you think you are? Any of these kinds of things. I think that probably the most important thing that's true about our church really is that we're centered on the gospel. MDLC is the outcome of the fact that we're centered on the gospel.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know whether that came out well enough at the conference or not, but that's my musings. What makes us risk averse? I think that might be part of it. I am, it's interesting because in every other profession, every other line of work, yeah, you're right. From the farmer to the business owner, you're out there running an experiment every day. And then if it doesn't work, you're like, well, that's one more thing that doesn't work.
Yeah.
I'm racking my brain to figure out what does, but now I've tried 99 things that don't, so maybe only 50 more to go.
And I could see that there would be a place where you would want, like if that was your life, running experiments, finding things that don't work, seeing what might hit. It could be really comforting to have a place where you don't have to try. Like you don't have to take those risks and things are just stable. I could see that.
Yeah.
And so I could see the appeal of like, hey, let's make church the place where like God is consistent, he's faithful and steadfast. And so let's not risk it here. And there's a part of me that clings to that sentiment. I get it.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And I think there does have to be a ton of constants in a church. You can't just be like all over the map. I think there has to be a ton of constants. So my reaction is, what is it that are those constants? And we can't make as a constant that we won't change when circumstances demand it. That can't become one of those constants. I think change almost could become a constant. We are willing to react to whatever's happening in the cultural world around us. That's one of our constants. We're willing to do that. So I do think there has to be these constants. I completely agree with that. And I don't think, actually, here's what's interesting. So let's take like McDonald's. Okay, that's probably one of the most successful organizations that has ever existed on planet Earth. What makes them successful? It doesn't matter what McDonald's you go into. You order a Big Mac, it is going to taste exactly the same. And you think to yourself like, oh man, they must have geniuses working at every McDonald's so that everything can be exactly the same. But no, they just hire like high school kids. So what's happening? They have been willing to keep on experimenting over and over and over again with every last thing to make sure that they have this constant product. So behind the scenes, there's a ton of innovation, constant experimentation. Like, what if we move this apparatus, 6 inches to the left in all our stores? And what would be they're constantly innovating to create something that is so consistent with people who don't necessarily have to bring any kind of real genius or not.
Yeah. How it looks like in ministry setting is that you want to disciple somebody. So there's a million different ways to disciple somebody, and even maybe how do I even define what a disciple is so I could reach that goal? Okay, this way didn't work. Let's try another way. And that stuff keeps you humble. Okay, now it's a leader. Now it's a church, and that's at least our plan. That's our general plan. Develop a disciple into a leader into a church, MDLC, and then that's how it multiplies. Let's talk about a plan. We have a clip here from I think it's Leslie, and she is talking a little bit about what this plan is and from the centralized side. So now we understand that this is the plan at Sunlight. This is the plan around Southeast, classes Southeast. We would like to see something like this develop in other classes, and if it's not exactly like it's their iteration of it, great, yes and amen. But it's probably going to look something like this. If I were to guess, it's probably going to look something like this. Could you go ahead and play this clip and we'll have the gentleman here react to it.
Be disciplers out in the world around us. This is what I didn't hear that I want us to really lean into more fully. I did not hear a strong connection between renewal and church planting. And what I need you all to hear is that there is a strong partnership here. We are not going to roll out our plan for renewal until we've run it by Resonate, because it doesn't help if we're moving on multiple tracks and we're not supporting each other, and we're not doing good handoffs to each other, and we're not supporting the goals of each other. And so we have a big retreat planned for January where we will roll out our plan. We will hear details of the church planting plan and how can we support each other together as we move forward. And now, what is Thrive planning when it comes to renewal? Our guiding principle has been this: the church does not have a mission. The church does not have a mission. God's mission has a church. And Thrive is here to help every congregation in the Christian Reformed Church figure out, discern.
Okay. So I think that's the general sweeps of it. I think she mentioned having a budget of $2 million. The clip's online. We could make sure. So if anyone wants to watch the whole thing, they can. What's your general take on what Leslie said about a plan that they're going to roll out in January, budget of $2 million? They're here to help the congregations find their own, I guess, calling or mission with God's mission. What's your take on that?
I think it's fantastic that Thrive and Resonate are planning together, and that they're making sure that the way that they want to give support to our churches is streamlined between them. Because I think there's a lot that each one can offer to the other. And what I know, she said that they're going to roll out the plan after this retreat in January. And I really hope that out of this retreat comes a plan that is helping churches execute the plan to evaluate, adjust, and not a let's get this right before we get going.
Yeah.
Because I think this is, and when I was working for the denomination, this is one of the things we talked about often, or it came up, was one thing that Thrive has particularly in their corner is they have the power to convene people. And so they can put together a conference, they can put together resources that bring people together. And so they're just so well positioned to help churches and classes identify what they're going to do. And I hope so much that it's what they can do, how do you measure it, evaluate it, and then how do you adjust, and then how do you keep doing it, keep going.
Yeah, keep getting a little bit better every time.
And if they got $2 million, they can help churches do that a lot.
I wonder what they would do with the $2 million. Probably convene people.
We could probably help.
Food for food. Food trucks.
well, we were just talking, one of the big things is going to be keeping people connected, right? So, we went to I think all of us went to Gather in Orlando last year.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if that was more like more than a listening session, if it was more like a summit where the breakouts were, hey, in Boston, here's what we're doing. Or this is, related to outreach ministers, discipleship, whatever. Here's the methods we're using.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
That'd be so much fun.
If they had a summit where they brought in the best practitioners telling what they did in their context, and that would just be
not even the best practitioners, just practitioners,
a practitioner.
Talk about the failures too,
yeah,
right?
the C minus D plus guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's just help them adjust. We'll help them adjust. Yeah, the hospitality there was great. Yeah. I just don't. The listening. I want to listen to that. That's what I want to listen to. I want to listen to okay, how'd you do it? Okay, that's going to work with me. That's not going to work with me, and I can adjust from there. What do you think about a plan? Do you want it to be more closer related to MDLC? I guess that's what we're calling this now. We were toying around with the name. I'm not even sure if we had a name like the Multiply Conference, which I guess still stands, but MDLC seems to be the refrain that seems to click. Mr. Multiply, what do you think about it?
Well, in terms of reaction to the clip, I agree that church planting and church renewal are together. And I think as a person who's sort of been at the center of these initiatives in the denomination, in terms of at least sparking them, I personally see them as two sides of the same coin. Because of the process it's going to take to plant churches. If we all of a sudden just started, I mean, there's lots of ways we could plant churches that I think would be very negative. And I've seen other denominations doing it, and I think, no, that's not the way. But if it really starts with this idea that we're all first multiplying disciples, every church in the Christian Reformed Church is working at multiplying disciples, and every church in the Christian Reformed Church is identifying leaders, and those leaders are being commissioned and sent out in all kinds of various different capacities, which is resulting in the multiplication of churches. Okay, that's what renewal looks like too.
Could somebody come up with a plan that does not follow that template of multiplying disciples, leaders, and churches? This might be smooth brain to me, but I don't know if there's a way to divert from that structure, right? To multiply.
There's a way.
Okay.
Denominations do it.
Okay. Yeah. Help me out. What is the way?
So
Effectively. Let me say effectively.
As a person who's paying attention to church planting here in Port St. Lucie and in the state of Florida, I've noticed that there are denominations that basically, there is a denomination, I won't call them out, but they had a lot of traditional churches that closed, so they had a lot of money. So they went with that money, I'll just call it church planter fishing. So they weren't looking from within, they were looking from without.
Oh,
hey,
of course, yeah.
Of course. Who could we basically, if we gave them money, they'd be willing to become our denomination? And so they were going finding people out there who had any kind of idea for planting a church, like, well, what if we gave you $300,000? Would you become our denomination? And the person was like, yeah.
Sign me
and
up.
then what was happening is that we were getting, that particular denomination was getting all kinds of church planters who were planting churches, but they had no real connection to the denomination itself. And in most cases, when their church plant failed or didn't work out, they're literally on to the next people who would be willing to
Oh, wow.
show me the money.
Oh, boy.
So there's lots of different ways
Yeah,
we could
okay.
plant churches
Never mind.
where we would not do it the way we're talking about here.
Yeah. You put a wrinkle in my smooth brain there. So, okay.
And listen, if you just take the history of the last, let's say, 50 years of church planting, the major way that we planted churches was parachute drop. And I'll go so far to say that in the history of our denomination, we planted churches, and this is part of what caused some unease, where we literally thought to ourselves, all right, we really don't want this church plant to have any kind of connection to the established churches. Actually, the established churches are sort of like problematic, and we want to avoid their DNA in these church plants. And so we tried to, our church planting strategy in many cases was like, almost like, whatever we do, we can't have the DNA of these nearby churches who are the longstanding churches. And so we kind of parachute dropped, and we did hey, we're not your grandparents' church.
Yeah. And
try to pull people over. And yeah, a lot of hurt and pain got caused by that, I think, in our denomination. Yeah. So yes, we can do it in a way that's not what I think we're talking about here.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
MDLC I think it's like a new wave. It's like a revolution. It at least makes a lot of sense to me. And I think it's funny that you say it, because once you get that framework in your mind, then you ask that question, is there a way to actually do it? That's not that,
I'm just swimming in this
sense way.
Yeah, I'm just swimming in the sunlight waters for a long time. I'm like, I can't think of another way to do it other than this. So.
But let me offer this. I actually think that when somebody was parachuted in, their model was in some version MDLC. How do you grow a church? You go to a place, you find people to make disciple, to raise up as leaders that you're going to replicate that with. I think the MDLC way, like the Sunlight MDLC way, is let's do that, but let's do it with a network of support.
Yeah.
So I think launching PGA.
Yeah.
You sent me over there with some incredible staff and with people and a school.
In a building.
And a building. I mean, right? So there was like
Salary.
so there's
Templates.
all this stuff, right? I mean, and that's the thing that I think our churches in classes can actually do this is let's not, if you're in classes Iacota, don't think about planting churches in like the Panhandle or in California. Do it right in your neighborhood. Like as churches work together to send out some of your best volunteers. And then pool your money so you can start. Eventually they got to raise up leaders first, right? I think that's key, is raise up leaders in your own spot. But then send out like one well-funded, well-supported church plant so they can MDLC and become a part of this network and just keep growing.
Yeah. When we sent people over with you, it hurt us.
Yeah.
It was a sacrifice, and it was a happy sacrifice, though. Look what we got from it. I mean, we got the outsized. I mean, just within a few short years, actually. So it's
and I'm
great.
already grieving the sacrifice that PGA is going to have to make.
Make the sacrifice.
Right?
Yeah.
But we're preparing for it.
Yeah, good.
And so, but that's just a part of it.
So I want you to react to this last bit of news. Okay, we're going to round out the pod with this. Sunlight is aiming for another church plant in Port St. Lucie, or rather Fort Pierce. Does that surprise you or not surprise you? And
I'm already pre-grieving it.
well, you might be grieving the high school one that we're looking for, which is still on the cards or still on the table, which is not what we're talking about. P.S. Would you want to tell them and tell people listening what is this new idea? And in light of the summit and the ideas of that we're generating, I think this is a really innovative idea, and it relates to the pro service in Cobbs.
Well, I'm hesitant to say a lot because we don't have or do we?
We're trying. I'm in conversation, so it's looking pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, if it's looking pretty good, that's great. So I think, and people who came to the conference got to see this sort of experimentation live because earlier this year in like April, May, we launched a new public reading of Scripture worship service that, it's just some new experiment that we're trying. And I think here's what I've discovered with it, which is, this actually works in a way that's better on a lot of fronts. First of all, I think the community aspect of it, where we're sitting around tables sharing a meal and then having some discussions in the middle of the worship service, is great. I think the second thing is that people are really getting exposed to Scripture is important. So I'm kind of watching that. We're going through the New Testament in a year, and I'm kind of watching that. Hey, for a lot of people, this is the first time they're actually like hearing Scripture in this way, at least. For some, it's the first time they're hearing the Bible at all. But in this way, where we're listening to larger portions of Scripture around just a few verses at a time. And then we're also singing psalms. And I think that's something that's totally different as well. But my overall evaluation is that in some ways, it's kind of like a much simpler type of service in terms of what you need, how it works. It's easy to pull off and do, and I think to get leaders to do it. So we were actually at our Multiply retreat in Cobb's Landing, sitting out in downtown Fort Pierce, looking out over the waters, and I'm like, a great room. I bet you we could just have a kind of service like that here. And then that's being in a downtown area like that provides a lot of advantages because we can just go out in the Saturday market and hand out invitations. And I think, we'll try to offer some food and a meal beforehand. I think we can pack that place out quickly. So it's another thought or experiment about, hey, let's see what could happen.
Yeah, and if it fails, we've put parameters on it to where it would mitigate the financial damage or stress on people. And if it succeeds, we tried something and we're going to adjust. We're going to adjust either way. and check and adjust either way. So, yeah, I'm excited for it. And that's just kind of what's happening here in the laboratories here at Sunlight.
Yeah. So at this point, I would say that we're really thinking about it. We're not announcing something yet, are we?
We'll see. I like to send the teasers out there.
Okay. So
I'm aiming
we're
for
getting
it.
the behind the scenes thinking before an announcement might come.
Yeah. So I'm aiming for it. And
Yeah, me too.
It's looking good.
I love the idea. I think this could be huge.
After public reading of scripture, you go down with your family and you walk around the pier, and you know, at sunset, you know, grab yourself a mochaccino latte. You know, that's good, and a crepe. It's gonna be good. All right. Any last takes on the conference, or anything you want to leave us with, both of you guys?
I'm tired.
Yeah. Well-deserved break. Yeah.
I was just saying this beforehand, but you know, 3-4 weeks before we did this conference, I was in charge of another conference in Nigeria. You know, I showed the picture during the conference. That was a huge effort to put on as well. So really, as it turned out, in the span of just a few months, it wasn't just one conference, but 2. And so I just, and now, you know, it's funny, but now we've got gyms and CIA camp this weekend. So I'm kind of gearing up to help my wife with that too. And anyway, I do think to myself, like, okay, you know, it'll be nice to have a little downtime here at some point. This was massive effort. And I think
I'll be sure to approve that.
I think most of our staff feels a little bit like this too.
Yeah, okay.
I think Jake, this is his 4th episode of the Disciple Standard podcast in like the last 3 days, and
Good. That's good.
and then just think of all they did to get ready, and Oh, we can't end this. We cannot end this yet. What's the deal with that sling? What'd you do to yourself?
Yeah, so I just spoke back to my wife one too many times, and she
No. What happened? What happened?
So I work out, and I'm benching on a flat bench, just so for future, if you guys are curious. And I just felt a tear in my shoulder, and the doctor said your tendon is made of 2 heads, a clavicular head and a sternal head, and this was a sternal head rupture, meaning I tore half of my tendon off my bone.
Wow.
Do you want to see it, Zach? Have you seen it?
Oh, I'd love to see. Yeah.
So
None of what is going on here grosses me out. But every time you tell the story of that, like the tear and the tingle and the ripping,
oh yeah,
I just get.
I was in such pain. I was colorblind. I didn't know that it could do that.
You were in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
And the bruise was unbelievable.
Yeah, the bruise was bad.
But then the Monday before the conference, you had a surgery.
Yes.
So let's talk about that surgery. What'd they do?
I actually have no idea. So they put me out. So I've never had surgery before. Yeah. They hit me with the IV. I thought that was anesthesia. So I'm like, I'm going to fight this thing. Yeah. I bet you I could fight this thing all day. Well, they let me, I fought it for like an hour. I was like, yeah, I beat this. They need to really juice me up. It turns out that was just saline. That was just salt water. I didn't even know. And then they wheeled me out and they hit me with the gas. I'm like, okay, this is the real thing. And I was out. Yeah. I woke up. I didn't know this. Apparently they had sewed me up and they had to open me back up. I have no idea.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I just, I've heard it secondhand. So I don't know what they found in there. I think it was too much muscle, so they had to really dig down deep. But apparently they drilled 3 holes into my bone and they anchored it like bungee cords.
Okay, and I can only imagine that that's incredibly painful. So you had some pain medication and then it wore off.
Yeah. So
compare the pain before and after.
Oh, it's a lot more after. It's not even close. So the pain
because you're coming to this conference and I'm looking in your eyes. I'm like, I'd be here.
Yeah. Well, I know how much this means to us and to the denomination. It was crazy.
I know. You're at like 1 PM. You're like, I have to go home. I'm like, yes, you do. Just go.
Well, you asked me to do the breakouts of the panel. I'm like, no problem. Let me soldier right through this. I'm used. It's fine. But I knew this conference meant a lot, and to me, to all of us, to you, to the denomination, whatever way I could support, I would. And I'm willing to. So,
You've been in a lot of pain.
a little bit, yeah.
And people are coming up to you and just bear hugging you at the conference.
Oh, but they're just my Spanish brothers. You know what I'm saying? They like to hug up on you and dap you up. So that's just South Florida. If you meet a South Floridian like Hispanic guy, just prepare for a hug and a kiss, man. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, thanks for watching for the DSP. I'm your anchorman, Aaron. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and go to the Patreon. We've got some really good clips there, some behind the scenes on the conference, some are our takeaways, and it's less than a cup of coffee a month. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.
The future is now.